Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today I am doing the intimidating TBR book tag. So this is a tag all about talking about some of those books on our TBR that may be intimidating us for various reasons. I was tagged by Cara from Wild Book Garden. It has been quite a while since she tagged me because I think she tagged me like last April, so it's been a while. I don't have a quick turnaround on doing videos that I'm tagged in, but I will link Cara's version of this tag down below and also the original if I can find it. So let's get started. Question 1 is a book on your TBR pile that you haven't finished. I have a few books on my shelves that I have started and not finished, but in terms of intimidation factor, I would say the best one for this would be The Game of Kings by Dorothy Dunnett. I have talked about this in a few different videos. I have tried to read this multiple times. I've tried to read it physically at least twice and on audio at least twice. And every time I can't get past a certain point. The farthest I've gotten into the physical book is 40 pages. And there's just something about the writing that my brain just like zones out while I'm reading this. But I know that this series has some like diehard fans and I really want to like it, but I just can't seem to get into this book, and I'm gonna give it another shot before deciding to DNF it. I just like, I keep trying it and it just keeps not working for me. Question 2 is a book you just haven't had the time to read. So I don't know if there are really any books that I would necessarily say I just don't have the time to read, because if I'm making time for reading, which I regularly do, then it doesn't really matter. Like, there aren't some books that I'm like, oh, I have the time to read this one, but not the time to read that one. And also, I have a lot of time right now because I'm at home a lot. But for the sake of the question, I'm gonna say The Forever Queen by Helen Huck. This is a historical fiction that is over 600 pages, and it just seems like a book that made a really good like sound. It just seems like a book that is going to take a while to read. It seems like it might be a little dense. It's pretty lengthy, not like the longest book I will have read, but you know, it just seems like something that might take a little while, so I haven't really made time for it. So we'll go with this one. Question 3 is a book you haven't read because it's a sequel. Now, I don't really tend to buy sequels until I've read the first book, so there aren't a lot that I would like not read just because it's a sequel. So most of the sequels that I have, like, it being a sequel is not stopping me because I've already read the first book. I think the only instance of this is that I have the Blood Journals duology by Tessa Gratton. So wait, the second one, this is the second one. So I haven't read either of these. I bought both of these books because I know I like this author and I want to read all of her books. So The Blood Keeper is a sequel that I have not read yet because it's the sequel and I need to read the first book first. And question 4 is a book you haven't read because it's brand new. I just recently hauled a couple of books, so I have a few new ones, but one that I am particularly excited about is The Forever Sea by Joshua Philip Johnson. This, like, for one thing, it has a beautiful cover, which I mention every time just because I adore this cover so much. But also, it's about this ship that sails on an endless sea of prairie grass, which just sounds interesting. And it's described as eco-fantasy, which, like, I don't really know what that means. There's so many things about this that are very intriguing to me, and I really, really want to love this, and I'm so excited. But yeah, I just got this, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Question 5 is a book by an author you read previously but didn't really like. So for this, I have A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. Now, the first book in this series, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, I read last year, and I didn't dislike it. So I don't know, it's not exactly that I like didn't like her previous book, but I had very like meh, like lukewarm feelings about the first book. But I did decide that I wanted to try the second one because there were some things that I liked about the first one, and I know this is such a beloved series that I kind of wanted to just like give it another chance and see what I thought of the second book. But yeah, this is probably the closest thing, because most of the time if I don't like an author, then I won't buy another book by them. But yeah, so the first one I had very meh feelings about, but I got the second one. I'm gonna give it a try. Question 6 is a book on your TBR pile that you're just not in the mood to read. And for this one, I'm going with Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So this book, I think I got last January, so I've been putting it off for at least a year. And this one I got because, for one thing, people rave about it and they're like, it's very like mind-bendy and it'll blow your mind. And sometimes people will say like, if you liked Middle Game, then you would like this because it kind of like bends your mind in a similar way, I guess. And also this has to do with memory. So those are all things that intrigue me. But this is a thriller and I don't read thrillers. They don't interest me. So this is a book that I'm just kind of perpetually not in the mood for. Question 7 is a book on your TBR pile that you haven't read because it's enormous. And that would probably have to go to The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is actually not the book that I own with the most pages. I think the longest book, or the book with the most pages that I own, is Kushiel's Dart, but this is the largest, just like physically largest book that I own. And in general, I'm not like intimidated by large books. A lot of times I actually get very excited about how like ginormous a book is. But I do have a tendency to put them off just because I know I'm gonna have to dedicate a lot of time to them and I won't necessarily be able to like read other books while I'm reading this, even though I do read multiple books at one time. But I don't know. Anyways, I have put this one off because it's so huge. Not because I'm intimidated by it, because I'm actually quite excited about how giant it is, but because I know I'm going to have to dedicate a large like portion of my month to reading just like one single book. Question 8 is a book that you bought because of the cover, but then found out that it doesn't have very good reviews. And for this, I'm gonna go with Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee. This was a 2020 release that I pre-ordered. So there were some, you know, early reviews, but there wasn't a lot of information out there. But then since it came out, I have heard some more negative reviews for it, which makes me a little uncertain if I'm going to like it. You know, I was really excited about this, one, because it does have a beautiful cover. I love this cover a lot, but also the premise. It is set in like a malevolent forest with someone who can like speak to the dead. It just sounds really cool and like it would be up my alley, but I don't know, my impression is the execution of the premise just is not great. Yeah, so this is one that I was very excited about and I loved the cover, but then ended up not having great reviews. And question 9 is the book on your TBR that you find most intimidating. So I don't know what I would consider like my overall most intimidating book on my TBR, but for this one, I'm gonna go with Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay. And this is not intimidating to me because of the size of it or because I think it will be difficult to read, even though it is, you know, over 600 pages, but as I said, the length of a book doesn't necessarily intimidate me. I think that I feel intimidated by this because this book and especially this author in general are just so well loved. Like, his books aren't as hyped on BookTube as some other authors, but these are books that I feel like are just kind of a staple of the fantasy genre, and people who love Guy Gavriel Kay like really love him, and I want to love these books too, you know, but I'm just afraid that I won't, because I feel like a lot of times these really well-known authors just like don't agree with me for some reason, and like I want to love the things that other people love too, you know. I don't enjoy disliking popular books or disliking books that other people like, but I feel like a lot of times the really popular or really well-known authors just don't agree with me for whatever reason, so I'm like afraid that I won't like it and I really want to. So that is all for the intimidating TBR book tag. I would love to know what are some books that are on your TBR that you find intimidating for whatever reason, because they're long, because there's a lot of hype, because they seem difficult to read, whatever reason. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!